What if the ultimate spiritual roadmap, to transcending the human condition and like hacking the multidimensional structure of the entire universe didn't actually lead to you floating as some, I don't know, disembodied orb of light in a cosmic void?
Right, yeah, like some big abstract nothingness.
Exactly. What if instead it just resulted in a really safe earthly neighborhood where you don't even have to lock your doors and the weather is always nice?
I mean, it is a massive paradox, right?
Yeah.
You spend all this time dissecting the literal architecture of consciousness, only to arrive back at a perfectly functioning society right here on the ground.
It's wild. And, well, arriving at that society is our mission today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're taking you through a truly fascinating document today from January 12, 2010.
Yeah, an incredible piece of work.
It really is. It's authored by someone named Swifeng, and the title alone just completely demands your attention. It's called, get this, The Eight Great Awakenings, From Human to Celestial Being, the Chapter of Wisdom, Article 93.
Which is quite a mouthful. But what makes this text so uniquely captivating for a listener like you, someone who, really appreciates digging past surface level philosophy, is that it doesn't just offer these vague platitudes about like just being a good person.
Right. It's not a generic self-help pamphlet.
Not at all. It is this incredibly dense, ambitious synthesis of ideas. I mean, the text is essentially attempting to map out the literal mechanics of the universe.
Yeah, the actual mechanics.
It treats spiritual ascension like a cosmic engineering manual, complete with taxonomies, dimensional grids, and the strict cause and effect physics.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can jump into these 8 required awakenings and start assembling this massive cosmic architecture, the text establishes a baseline definition of what awakening actually means.
Which is crucial, yeah.
Yeah, and it grounds this very lofty concept in these vivid, almost visceral agricultural metaphors, right?
Oh, the imagery is striking.
It really is. It states that awakened beings are like rice and wheat, while the ignorant are like weeds and grass. Awakened minds are light and fragrance, and the ignorant are darkness and stench. It calls them tangled messes.
I mean, the author is drawing a really sharp contrast there between utility and chaos. Weeds and grass, they represent this uncontrolled, disorganized growth, whereas rice and wheat provide actual sustenance. They have a tangible purpose.
Right.
And the text goes on to define the actual mechanism of getting from the weeds to the wheat, by breaking down a specific progression.
Yeah, 3 steps.
Exactly. It goes awareness, then enlightenment, and finally awakening.
I found that distinction incredibly helpful, honestly, because the text defines awareness merely as sensation, like you perceive something, a physical or an emotional response.
Just raw data, basically.
Yeah, raw data. Then comes enlightenment, which is the act of reflecting on that sensation. You start asking the why and how behind what you're actually experiencing.
Oh, you're processing it.
Exactly. And then awakening is the final state, moving permanently from that initial confusion and chaos into absolute clarity and order.
And building on that progression, Swifeng outlines what the text calls the best shortcut to awakening.
The shortcut, yeah. This part threw me a bit.
It's fascinating, right? Because this shortcut completely ignores traditional theological borders.
Totally.
The document explicitly advises the reader to board the Dharma ship of Buddha, referencing the Buddhist concept of teachings that carry you across the sea of suffering.
Right.
But while simultaneously following the course of Christ Jesus and taking the route of the deiform Buddha, which represents this manifestation of ultimate divine reality.
This is all at once.
All of these paths, the text claims, are heading to the exact same greatest creator.
See, I am struggling a bit with this merging of traditions. Is this just a spiritual soup where the author throws every major religious figure into a giant pot and just, hopes it tastes good?
That's a valid reaction for sure.
Because for someone trying to find clarity, wouldn't mashing up completely different, often contradictory belief systems just create more chaos? Is this essentially a spiritual GPS system that's intentionally pulling satellite signals from completely different belief systems to just find the fastest route?
That's actually a brilliant way to phrase it. Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text is attempting to bypass tribalism entirely.
Okay.
It focuses strictly on the pragmatic function of these belief systems. The goal stated in the document is to escape the sea of suffering and reach the shore of freedom, a destination the text calls the Elysium world.
The Elysium world.
Right. And the author treats Buddha, Jesus, and other figures not as these exclusive deities demanding absolute loyalty, but, like you said, as navigational technologies.
Just tools for the job.
Exactly. If you are drowning, you don't interrogate the brand of the life raft.
You just get on the raft.
You use whatever tools actually work to reach the shore.
That makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah.
The destination completely dictates the value of the tool. And once that destination is clear, the document launches into the first 3 of its 8 awakenings, which are really designed to fundamentally rewrite how you view your own existence.
This is where it gets heavy.
It does. Awakening 1 focuses on life, and that's spelled in all capital letters in the text. Now, for an audience that is likely, very familiar with general concepts of reincarnation or karma, the way this text describes it feels different.
Very different.
It defines life not as flesh, but as a, quote, non-material structure with spirituality that undergoes endless transmigration. That sounds almost clinical, doesn't it?
Well, the clinical tone is highly intentional. By calling it a non-material structure, Huifeng is effectively divorcing your identity from biology.
Okay.
Your body isn't you, it's just the temporary casing for this eternal structure.
Right, the hardware.
Yeah. And this directly feeds into Awakening 2, which tackles life and death. The text insists that death is merely an appearance, not an actual essence.
Right, it uses that poem.
Yes, a beautiful grounding poem to illustrate this. It goes, "Boundless grasses across the plains come and go with every season. Wildfires never quite consume them. They are tall once more in the spring wind."
I love that. The imagery of the wildfire never quite reaching the root.
It's very evocative.
It is. The text also relies heavily on the metaphor of life as a boat. It says when you cross the river and reach the other shore, you simply disembark.
You just step off.
But I have a genuine question about, operationalizing that. If our physical bodies are just temporary rental cars we drop off at the destination, how does the text reconcile that with the deeply ingrained biological human instinct of self-preservation?
The fear of death.
Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't get too attached to the paint job of the rental car, sure, but the anxiety over losing the boat is universal.
Well, the text views that biological anxiety as a symptom of ignorance. It's seen as a fundamental misunderstanding of your own mechanics.
How so?
If you falsely believe you are the boat, then stepping off onto the shore feels like complete annihilation. The awakening process is about shifting your locus of identity to the driver rather than the vehicle. Once you do that, returning the vessel is just a standard transition.
Okay, I see.
And the nature of that specific transition is governed entirely by Awakening 3, which is causality.
Ah, yes. The inescapable law of cause and effect.
Big one.
The text puts it so bluntly, too. It says, cucumbers for cucumbers, beans for beans. It also uses the phrase, heaven's net is vast, yet nothing escapes it.
Which sounds poetic, but the mechanism of causality here isn't just some moral judgment from a deity sitting on a cloud.
Right, it's not a cosmic courtroom.
No, it is treated as literal cosmic physics. Every single action you take leaves a permanent imprint on that non-material structure we discussed in Awakening 1.
It alters the structure itself.
Exactly. You cannot escape the physics of your own actions because you carry the structure with you everywhere. If you plant a bean, the structure is fundamentally altered to produce a beanstalk.
So if our actions leave a permanent cosmic imprint on this structure, those imprints have to be stored or experienced somewhere, right?
They do.
And the text doesn't leave this abstract at all. It provides a literal architectural map of where you go, which brings us to Awakenings 4 and 5 space and predestined relationships.
The map of the universe.
Yeah. Awakening 4 outlines a highly specific taxonomy. It claims the universe contains exactly 20 parallel worlds and 36 dimensional spaces.
Very precise numbers.
Extremely precise. Paradises exist for perfect lives, and hells are reserved for defective ones. Now, if you're listening and thinking, where on earth is he getting the numbers 20 and 36 from? You really aren't alone. It feels incredibly rigid.
It does feel rigid, but what's fascinating here is the underlying logic behind that rigidity.
Okay, what's the logic?
The numbers themselves serve to emphasize that the universe is a structured environment. It's not just a random, chaotic void.
Right.
The crucial mechanism the text reveals is that your location in space directly corresponds to your life state. It explicitly states that each life lives in a space mathematically corresponding to its internal condition.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If our spaces are perfectly tailored to our inner state, and the universe has these highly specific dimensions, then the text is essentially describing reality as a giant self-imposed sorting algorithm.
A sorting algorithm. That's spot on.
Like you're sorted into dimensional spaces based on your spiritual credit score and who's in your network. We aren't being judged and placed by an external force at all. Our non-material structure just naturally filtering into the dimension that perfectly matches its frequency.
That is precisely the mechanism. It's pure resonance.
Yeah.
And you don't write the code for this sorting algorithm in isolation either.
No.
No, because Awakening 5 introduces the concept of predestined relationships. The text asserts that your trajectory is heavily dictated by who you connect with.
The company you keep.
Exactly. Ties with what they call ghosts pull you downward to the netherworld, while ties with celestial beings raise you up to a fairyland.
Wow.
Crucially, it discusses unpaid debts. These debts act as literal gravitational anchors.
So if you owe someone...
If you have unresolved baggage or harm you've caused others, those debts literally weigh down your non-material structure, trapping you in your current dimensional plight until the physics of that specific debt are balanced.
I mean, that is empowering because it means you're completely in control, but it's also incredibly intimidating.
Oh, absolutely. The extreme personal responsibility is daunting.
Yeah, because if you are stuck in a bad dimension, or honestly, just having a terrible year, this framework suggests it is a direct mirror of your own unpaid debts and the specific network of connections you fostered.
It's all on you.
So if the universe is this massive frequency-based sorting algorithm, how do we hack it?
The million-dollar question.
Right. That brings us to Awakening 6 and 7, which basically argue that consciousness is the ultimate tuning mechanism. Awakening 6 is about mind and nature. It posits that reality is entirely a projection of consciousness. It says, fragrances will attract butterflies to flowers, and pure hearts will be frequented by celestial beings.
The external world is just reflecting your internal broadcast. It's exactly like tuning a radio.
A radio, yeah.
The 36 dimensions are constantly broadcasting all around you, right?
Right.
But your internal state dictates whether your antenna picks up the hell frequency or the paradise frequency.
So you have to change the dial.
Right. The text states that the ultimate goal of the mind is to not abide anywhere. A mind that achieves this completely unattached state is called tathagata, which is a traditional Buddhist term for perceiving reality exactly as it is, completely unconditioned by personal bias or ego.
But remaining unconditioned is so difficult because of Awakening 7, which introduces the Dharma arrays.
The traps.
The traps, yeah. The text claims the universe has 36 8-diagram arrays. These arrays are essentially complex philosophical traps, or what Shuefen calls the sources of games.
And they are everywhere.
They really are. The text lists these traps. Power, money, fame, gain, carnal pleasure, and affection.
Right.
Okay, wait, I have to push back hard on this one.
Go for it.
I get power, money, and fame being traps, obviously. But affection. Is the text really arguing that human love and affection are just part of the game we need to detach from? That sounds incredibly cold.
Yeah, this raises an important question, and it is honestly a hurdle many face when studying systems aimed at transcending physical reality.
Because it just feels anti-human.
It can feel that way. But let's look at the actual mechanics of what the text is critiquing here. It isn't arguing that extending care to another being is inherently evil or bad.
Okay.
It is specifically targeting the mechanism of attachment. Remember, the goal of Awakening 6, the mind must not abide anywhere.
Right. Tathagata.
Exactly. In the human experience, affection frequently morphs into a hook. It becomes possessiveness, a fear of loss, or this invisible contract demanding reciprocation.
Ah, I see. So the moment affection turns into a demand or an anchor, it becomes a Dharma array.
Exactly, that process of entrapment. Any attachment that forces your consciousness to fixate on the material world, even something socially normalized, like deep emotional dependency, prevents the mind from transcending those 36 dimensions.
Because you're tied down.
You cannot tune your radio to a higher frequency if your antenna is bolted to someone else's emotional state.
Wow.
The text argues that supreme authentic wisdom is required to escape the 5 elements, which are the foundational building blocks of the physical realm we are trying to transcend.
That is a staggering level of detachment to strive for. Like, you have to experience reality, interface with other people, and exist in the world without needing to own, hold, or control any piece of it.
It's the ultimate tightrope walk.
Truly. So we've navigated the cosmic map, and we understand the traps of the mind, which leads us to the summit. Awakening 8, the original truth.
The culmination of it all.
Yeah, the text strips the entire universe down to its barest bones here. It asserts that the universe is comprised of only 3 elements: consciousness, structure, and energy.
Just those three.
Everything else, your job, your anxieties, your status, is described as a dream, illusion, bubble, shadow, dew, lightning.
I mean, the author is telling you that the physical world is essentially a temporary hologram.
Right.
The mechanism works like this. Consciousness dictates the design, energy provides the raw material, and structure is the temporary bubble or shadow that forms as a result.
Okay, I follow that.
And the ultimate source of all three of those elements is the greatest creator. The text promises that if you align yourself with this source, the 84,000 methods, which is a traditional term for the myriad overwhelming number of paths to enlightenment, suddenly consolidate into one smooth, clear path.
And if you don't...
If you don't align, you are basically standing at the edge of a cliff.
Yikes. Well, the text gives us a very specific how-to for maintaining this alignment, luckily. It instructs the reader to hold the one, meaning to maintain a unified focus on the source and to shed all ego and selfishness. You must revere nature and revere life in its capital-letter, non-material form.
And this is where the entire philosophical journey snaps back to reality.
Yes.
Because when you hold the one and strip away the ego, the result isn't the dissolution of the self into a meaningless void.
So what does this all mean? The end result described in the text completely blew my mind.
It's unexpected.
Very. For a text that spends so much time talking about 36-dimensional spaces and escaping the five elements and shedding earthly attachments, the blueprint for an awakened world is shockingly grounded.
Very practical.
It really is. It says an awakened reality is simply a place where the talented are valued, everyone functions as one big family, no one pockets anything found on the ground, doors are left unbolted at night, and the wind and rain come in their proper time.
The text reveals its true colors right here. The ultimate proof of spiritual ascension, according to this framework, isn't escaping the world. It is transforming the world.
Transforming it.
Yeah. The rigorous internal mechanics we talked about, balancing your cosmic debts, detaching from the Dharma arrays, recognizing the temporary nature of the physical boat, all of that non-material work is designed to produce a tangible, utopian, earthly result.
By bringing the mind to a state of order, you bring the physical realm into a state of harmony.
Exactly. Because consciousness creates reality.
So if enough people achieve that internal Tathagata state, the external world automatically tunes its frequency to become that unbolted door neighborhood.
The outer world is merely the final printout of our collective inner state.
I love that phrase, the final printout.
Right. If the internal code is free of the traps of greed and possessive affection, the external reality operates without crime or chaos.
Well, let's do a quick recap of the journey we just took you on through Zhuafeng's Article 93. We started by defining awakening, not as this magical event, but as a deliberate progression from sensation to clarity, stepping out of the weeds and into the wheat.
Right.
We explored the mechanics of transmigration, learning that our actions leave a permanent imprint on our non-material structure. And then we discovered that the 36 dimensions of the universe act as a sorting algorithm, filtering us based on our unpaid debts and connections.
We also examined the traps, the Dharma arrays, that use things like fame, gain, and even affection to anchor our consciousness to the physical realm.
And finally, we arrived at the original truth, that consciousness, structure, and energy are the only true reality. And mastering them leads directly to a harmonious, safe existence right here on Earth.
It is a profound, dense framework that really forces us to question the actual mechanics of how we live.
It absolutely challenges the default human operating system.
It does. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you process all of this.
Let's hear it.
You don't necessarily have to believe in the rigid taxonomy of 20 parallel worlds or 36-dimensional spaces to apply this text today.
Right, you can just use the framework.
Exactly. If reality truly is a projection of consciousness, as the text claims, take a hard look at the space you are living in right now.
What does your printout look like?
Yeah. What debts or games like the relentless pursuit of money or even attachments that have secretly morphed into demands are currently writing the code for your reality? And what happens to your daily experience if you decide to simply disembark from that boat today?
What happens when you stop fighting the frequency and start tuning the antenna?
Beautifully said.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of awakening. Keep questioning the mechanics of the game, and maybe tonight, metaphorically speaking, try leaving those doors unbolted. We'll catch you next time.